Hello, dear learners. Hope you all are doing well. Today I am here to discuss certain applications of parametric and non-parametric test in education. So in the last classes, we have already discussed about the basic concepts, assumptions, a few examples, and also data transformation. So here we will go with certain particular examples with that of in the field of education, and we will frame certain objectives, hypotheses, and also the statistical techniques along with that, so that it may be very clear and in-depth understanding for you how to frame different types of objectives with respect to parametric and the non-parametric test with suitable examples. Okay, so let's move on to the slide. So here in the onset itself, I would like to start with a proposed research topic. You might you might have gone through different research topics, or you might have done different researches also. So here I have come up with this one simple example, one small example with respect to parametric test. Okay, so here let's see what the title is. Impact of emotional intelligence on job satisfaction among university teachers. Okay, so here I am going to find out the impact, and the independent variable is the emotional intelligence, and the dependent variable is the job satisfaction, and my sample is the university teachers. I hope it is clear. So you might be knowing about what is independent variable and also what is dependent variable. So here this is considered as the cause. In simple, we can say that this is considered as the cause, and here it is considered as the effect. So what are the changes that is being taking place in the job satisfaction among the university students with respect to that of their emotional intelligence, that we are going to check over here. So let's have a detailed analysis with respect to the assumptions, whether we want to use a parametric test over here or a non-parametric test. Let's go with that assumptions. Okay. So here both variables are continuous, that is interval or in the ratio scale. So that is the assumption of which test? Yes, it is the assumption of parametric test. And when it comes to the non-parametric test, it is nominal and the ordinal scale. So here both the variables, what are the both variables? That is the emotional intelligence and the job satisfaction. They are continuous, that is in the interval or in the ratio scale. And the next assumption is that we always used to tell the first and the foremost assumption. We assume that the data is normally distributed in large samples. We have taken university teachers and just take an example, like we have taken 3 or 4 universities and our sample is around 200 to 250, and we are checking their job satisfaction level. So we are assuming that there is a normal distribution of the sample, and the sample is large and can be analyzed using parametric test. So here when the assumptions of interval and the ratio scale and also the normality has been ensured, we are going for the parametric test, so that it may give you a flexibility for demonstration and also the real research. So the assumptions are complete. We have finalized what kind of test that we can use. So let's frame the research questions based on the certain criteria with respect to that of the title. We are going to frame certain research questions, that is there any relationship between emotional intelligence and job satisfaction among university teachers? Any relationship or any impact we can frame. So and next one, does male and female differ in the level of job satisfaction? That means, is there any difference between the gender as the subsample with respect to the variable that is job satisfaction? And next one, emotional, if you are taking the emotional intelligence, we can take gender differences in emotional intelligence also. You can frame that research question along with objectives. And next, is there any differences in the emotional intelligence across faculty types, that is arts, science and also the professional studies? So these are the certain research questions that we have framed over here. And next move on to the objective. So here to determine the relationship between emotional intelligence and job satisfaction among university teachers. That is our first objectives. We are going to determine the relationship between emotional intelligence and job satisfaction. Next one, to examine the difference in job satisfaction based on gender. That means, is there any difference in the job satisfaction level? That means any significant difference in the job satisfaction level with respect to that of the gender. Next one, to compare the emotional intelligence scores across the faculty types. We have taken 3 faculty types, that is arts, science and also the professional studies. So these are the major 3 objectives that we have framed. You can frame many objectives. As in, I have just taken 3 for the time sake and also for the situation based. You can frame different objectives. Next one is the hypothesis. Based on the objectives, we have framed the hypothesis. The first hypothesis is there is no significant relationship between the emotional intelligence and the job satisfaction among university teachers. Null hypothesis we have formulated. If you want, you can formulate alternative hypothesis also based on the research studies and also based on the review of the related literature. Next one, there is no significant difference in the job satisfaction scores between the male and the female university teachers. Here also we have formulated a null hypothesis. And the third one is there is no significant difference in the emotional intelligence scores among university teachers from different faculty types. We have formulated arts, science and also the professional studies, and we hypothesize that there is no significant difference in emotional intelligence scores among teachers, university teachers from different faculty types. So these are the hypotheses that we have formulated. Let's see the test to be applied. So we have, based on the first, second and the third objective, we have chosen the parametric test and we are assuming that we have conducted the statistical analysis, say for example through SPSS or R, and then we are making the interpretation, because we all know that a detailed hands-on experiences with respect to Pearson's correlation, independent sample t-test and one-way ANOVA will be given by various resource persons in the coming session. So there is no need to go into detail right now. You will be getting it accordingly respectively. So here, as far as the first objective is concerned, so what was our first objective? To determine the relationship between the emotional intelligence and the job satisfaction among university teachers. So here we have used the Pearson's correlation as the test. We have used this parametric test, Pearson's correlation, in order to find out the relationship between the job satisfaction level and also the emotional intelligence. So here, sample data, we have taken the score of emotional intelligence, which has been abbreviated as EI, and job satisfaction, that is abbreviated as JS. So here we found that the value of the correlation is 0.58 and the significance level, it is the row value that is considered as less than 0.01. So what we assume, that higher the emotional intelligence, then higher the satisfaction. If there is higher emotional intelligence, and we can say that the job satisfaction of the teachers is also high, that is what that is a positive correlation. When one is becoming high, the other variable is also going high. That is the independent variable emotional intelligence, when it is increasing, the job satisfaction, that is the dependent variable, is also increasing. That is the final output. See, for example, I have just taken a value, the output is telling that. Next one, next objective, to examine the difference in job satisfaction with respect to that of the gender. There are only 2 groups, that is male and the female, so far we are considering over here, and we know that gender is a fluid concept. It is having many more types, but we have taken over here the 2 basic concepts, that is the male and the female basic types. So that is, we are using the independent sample t-test over here. Independent sample t-test, male, female t-test we are using, because there are I mean making the analysis between the male and the female. There are only two groups, that is why t-test, and also we are making male and female, they are independent samples, so we are taking independent sample t-test. Justification should be clear. And in the male versus the female job satisfaction, we are taking the mean scores, because we mean difference analysis, that is another term for the t-test. We are actually checking whether there is significant difference between the mean scores. So here the t value that has been obtained is 2.13 and the significant levels less than 0.05. So we assumes that gender difference exists. There occurs gender differences in the male and the female according to the mean. If the mean of the male is high compared to that, very high compared to that of the female, we can say that job satisfaction level of the males are high compared to that of the females. So here the next test according to the objectives, that is to compare the emotional intelligence scores across faculty types, that is arts, science and also the professional studies. So here why we didn't go for t-test? Because there are three groups: arts, science and also the professional studies. If there is only arts and science, we can go for independent sample t-test. We can go for t-test at that time. But here, since there are three groups, even with three groups also, sometimes I have seen that students going for, researchers going for t-test, but there are mainly chances for errors over there. So it's better to go for ANOVA. We can go for one-way ANOVA over here. That means emotional intelligence among arts, science and also the professional teachers of the professional studies. So here the F value is 4.67. 4.67 is the F value that we have received, which is less than 0.01, and the rho value is 0.01 significance level. So here we can say that the faculty types influences the emotional intelligence. The emotional intelligence of the faculty members is influenced by their faculty types. So these are the various tests to be applied with the help of an example data and also a sample interpretation. So I hope it is clear. Let's move on to the discussion based on this interpretation. So we have already discussed it. Let's have a glance on it. So here the findings revealed that a significant positive relationship, there is a significant positive relationship between the emotional intelligence and job satisfaction, which indicates that emotionally intelligent teachers tend to experience higher job satisfaction. When the teachers are emotionally intelligent, they pursue or they experience more higher job satisfaction. And moreover, female teachers are reportedly slightly higher job satisfaction compared to that of the males depending on their mean value. Emotional intelligence varied significantly across the faculties, with teachers from professional faculties scoring highest. The value must be high for the teachers from the professional faculty. See, for example, I am just assuming it. So based on that, we can assume that, or we can discuss that the emotional intelligence varied significantly across the faculties, with teachers from professional faculties having the highest score. So these are the general discussion based on this particular interpretation. So I hope it is clear. So we discussed about the parametric test with an example, and we have formulated the research questions, the objectives, the hypothesis, the sample analysis have also been made, and also we have made the discussion part also, and I hope it is clear. So now from this we will just move on to the another example. In this example, we are discussing about another research topic. So let's see what is that. The relationship between stress levels. Okay, it is not stress or academic stress. We are discussing about the stress levels. The relationship between the stress levels and the coping strategies among high school teachers. So here, relationship. We are finding out the relationship between the stress levels and coping strategies. So these are the two variables that we have taken over here, that is the stress level and the coping strategies. Stress level is considered as the independent variable and coping strategies is considered as the dependent variable. Independent variable and the dependent variable. So here we assumes that when the stress, what is the relationship between the stress level and the coping strategies? When the stress level is increasing, whether they are able to cope up with different situations or vice versa. That is stress levels and coping strategies among the high school teachers. Our sample is the high school teachers. So that is the example of a proposed research topic that we have taken over here. So here two variables, stress levels and coping strategies, and often measured with ordinal scale. It is usually in the form of the order, isn't it? Stress level, high, moderate. We are taking an order of the stress level. So it is very much carrying with that of the assumptions of the non-parametric test. As I have already discussed, non-parametric test, the basic assumption is that the data must be in the ordinal scale or in the nominal scale. So here when we are taking the Likert type responses, it makes an ordinal scale, making the non-parametric test most appropriate over here. So here it allows the demonstration of Mann-Whitney U-test, Kruskal-Wallis test and Spearman's rank correlation test also. So that we will discuss in the coming slides, that which test and how and what is the value and also what is the result. So here this research topic is based on the non-parametric test and the last one was based on the parametric test. So let's see what are the research questions that we can formulate over here. I have just taken certain examples. The first one is that, is there a relationship between stress levels and coping strategies? Just check whether there is any relationship. And the next research question formulated is, does there exist differences? That means differences whether it is existing in the stress levels between the male and the female teacher. That means here also I have taken only one subsample, that is the gender. And here the third research question that has been formulated was, does there exist difference in the coping strategies across of different school types? Here I have taken three different types of the schools, that is the government, private and also the aided school. But here there are two types, that is the male and the female, and the first research question is with respect to the relationship. Let's see, based on the research questions, what are the objectives that we have formulated. Objectives. To determine whether there is a significant relationship between the stress levels and the coping strategies. That is one of the objectives. I want to determine whether there is any relationship between the stress levels and the coping strategies. And also second one was to examine differences in the stress levels between the male and the female teachers. That is by taking gender as a subsample. Here we will be analyzing the differences in the stress levels. Just like I have already told you, apart from the stress level, we can also conduct this in the dependent variable, that is in the coping strategies also. So let's have a glance on the first objective. First objective was to determine whether there is a relationship between the stress levels and coping strategies of the students. So let's see. We are using a non-parametric test over here, that is Spearman's rank correlation. So here we are making an example data, that is stress rank versus the coping strategies. We are finding out the relationship between the stress and also the coping strategy. We have taken it in the ranking form, the level, the rank and also the coping strategies in the ordinal scale. Now let's see what is the result going on. When the row value, it is indicating minus 0.45, which is less than 0.01. That indicates that higher the stress, that is the less effective coping strategy, which means that when there is higher level of stress, they are having less effective, that they are having less effective coping strategies or less conflict resolution styles are they are using, which is not that much effective in order to cope up with the different situations. So that was with that of the first objective. And the second objective we have taken over here was to examine the differences in the stress level between the male and the female, that is whether there exists differences in the stress level of the male and the female students. So here we are using Mann-Whitney U test. When I have already discussed about the parametric and the non-parametric test, we said that in the parametric test we are using t-test, and the Mann-Whitney U test is the test that we are using when there are two groups, especially with respect to that of the parametric test when the assumptions are being met. So here stress level of the male versus the female, that is where we are going to check. And also the Mann-Whitney U test value is 550, rho value, that is significance level, is less than 0.05, which indicates that gender differences exist in the stress. That means as per the value we can calculate whether the males are having higher stress value, higher stress compared to that of the female students, because significant difference are being existing between the male and the female students, see for example. And the next one, let's move on to the third objective, that is to compare the coping strategies. We are comparing the coping strategies across the teachers of different school types, that is the government, the private and also the aided. We are comparing the coping strategies across the teachers of different school types, that is the government, the private and the aided. So here when we are moving on to the Kruskal-Wallis test, that is the test that we are using over here. That means three groups are over there, that is the private, government and also the aided school types are there. So here the coping strategy ranks across the school types has been calculated over here, that means in the example data. And here as far as the interpretation is moving, we will discussing about the school type affects the coping strategies. That means the type of the school is affecting the coping strategies, hence the significance level is less than 0.05 and the value is 8.23 H value. So here we are assuming that school type affects the coping strategies of the students. So that is the non-parametric test that we have been employed over here. So here when we are moving on to the proposed research topic, that means the relationship between the stress level and the coping strategies among high school teachers. Here we have made different types of analysis with respect to the relationship, stress levels, coping strategies, and different aspects have been measured. That means in the coping strategies we have taken the students, we have taken the private, government and the aided, and with respect to that of the stress level also we have taken gender. Here vice versa also you can do it. You can check the coping strategies of the male and female, stress levels of the private, aided and the government school teachers, and even you can check with that of the students also. So a lot of flexibility is there with that of the statistical techniques if you have the data with you, and also if you are collecting the samples from the teachers and also with respect to that of the students. Okay, so here next have a discussion based on the interpretation. If we are making the discussion based on interpretation, in general we can say that teachers with better coping strategies report low stress level. There was a negative correlation. That means teachers who are struggling hard with that of the stress levels, their coping strategy power is itself is decreasing. And here female teachers reported slightly higher stress compared to that of the males. If the value of the female teachers are high, we can say that they have high stress compared to that of the female, but significant difference are existing. But here coping strategies differ across the school types. coping strategies across the school types like government, private and aided. Coping strategies levels are differing across the school types, and with the private school teachers showing the most proactive strategies. Most proactive strategies are given by the private school teachers. Here also we can say that you can make a dimension wise analysis. You can also divide it into different types of age wise of the teachers, and also they based on the experience of the teachers, based on the age of the students, and based on the class, and based on the subject and the stream of the student, based on the locality of the school like urban, semi-urban, rural. Anyway, if you have the data, if you have collected the data, there is flexibility for you in order to conduct the parametric and also the non-parametric test. So here, that is what we have discussed about the parametric and the non-parametric test with a suitable example. The main thing is that the assumption should be met whether you want to use the parametric test or the non-parametric test, and it is also said that you should be choosing wisely whether which kind of test, which kind of data, where to use and what to use and how to use, that should be kept in clear. So in conclusion, I would like to say that parametric and non-parametric test both are powerful tools for analyzing the research data. One is not, in the last class I have discussed about the misconception that only parametric tests are more powerful. Such kind of misconception is not there. Both are powerful tools for analyzing the research data, and each is suiting according to the different conditions. The conditions matters over here. Also, parametric tests like t-test, ANOVA and Pearson's correlation works better when the data is normally distributed and it is in the interval and the ratio, as we have discussed in the study of the emotional intelligence and also in the with respect to that of the job satisfaction, and that is revealing that significant relationship is existing and also group differences are also existing over there. Sometimes there may not be significant relationship, but that doesn't mean that your data or the test that you have conducted has gone wrong. In original or in reality, there may not be significant difference existing over there. When we are moving on to the non-parametric tests such as the Mann-Whitney-U test or the Wallis test and the Spearman's correlation test, that are ideal for the ordinal or the non-normal data, and that is also we have discussed in the in the research title with respect to that of the stress and the coping strategies, and we found that uncovering meaningful patterns despite the data limitation, even if it is a small sample data also, non-parametric test covers all those data limitations and gives us a proper result. So the final thing is that the concluding remark is that the key is to choose the test wisely based on the data type, assumptions and also the research objectives. I hope it is clear for you. I hope all the data analysis and the techniques is very well understood for you. And here are the few references that I have taken here for your perusal. You can go for that. I have taken the references with respect to that of the title so that I can move more deep into it. There are more statistical books which is giving a detailed explanation of the parametric and also the non-parametric test. So I hope you will go for it, and thank you for listening to me and have a nice day.